John, the Alex Bregman stuff, I want to put that out there for people. I think we can have a conversation. I want to check in with Tiger fans. We want to hear how you guys feel about this offseason. I said yesterday, everything feels small market. It's not over. Still could make a move. And Alex Bregman's the guy that makes the most sense. They don't have a long-term third baseman. Jace Young's going to take some fielding over at second base. He hasn't played in the majors consistently. They have a need at third base. Alex Bregman played for A.J. Hinch and won World Series. He's a right-handed bat. Good defender, too. Gold Glover.
Yeah.
And he's available. The latest on Bregman. There are 4 teams believed to be in the mix. 1, Houston, where he played last season in his entire career. 2, Boston. They would move Devers over to first. They are very interested. They might be the front runners. The Yankees didn't get Juan Soto, and they are mentioned for Alex Bregman. And the Tigers have come up. But according to John Heyman, New York Post, he's too pricey. Costs too much money for the Tigers. Look, there's a number of reasons to not add Bregman. Maybe you don't feel comfortable with the 7th, 8th year. Or you don't think he's going to age well, whatever. But to say we're broke, we can't afford it, that can't be the explanation. Too pricey cannot be a reason to not add a player that you otherwise think is good, helps the team, and pushes you forward. For a team whose payroll isn't approaching the luxury tax, isn't even league average, is one of the lowest in the sport, too pricey can't be a valid reason not to add a guy who you think makes this team better.
And it can't just simply always be term. It can't always be, well, what happens in year 6 or 7? Because if that's the case, you're never going to sign any of these guys. There are you just have to build it into the budget. Hey, by the time they get to year 6, maybe we've won a World Series, maybe we've competed for a couple of World Series, and it becomes worth it. And you just have to deal with, okay, a year or 2 at the end of 1 or 2 guys' contract, because everybody else is going to be doing that. They find a way. Why can't we?
Yeah, again, the Javi Baez contract, not a good one. But you can't let that stop you from handing long-term deals out forever and ever and ever. You can't be afraid to get better. You can't be afraid to compete. So
that deal was bad from the beginning.
Yeah.
And so you didn't have to wait for year 5 or 6 or 7 for that one to be bad. But if you're afraid of signing somebody who is 30 to a 7-year deal, there's going to be 27 other teams that'll do that. You know, or maybe not everyone, but there's going to be other teams, other franchises that are going to sign that player away from you. And you're never going to get a bite at the apple because they're always going to go for more security. And there are other teams that will live with the fact that, hey, year 6 and 7 might not be great for this individual, but we need them for the next 5.
Yeah, again, 4 or 5 years to be competitive. All these free agents always want you to tack an extra couple years on for security. They have leverage. They're free agents for the first and maybe only time in their career. This is just how free agency goes. So when you read quotes from Scott Harris like, oh, the prices are more than I anticipated, paraphrasing, but effectively, you know, the idea that these salaries are spiking more than we had anticipated. Spend, compete, try, push the team forward. Don't spend to just spend. Bregman's a good baseball player. The best teams in baseball are looking at this guy, right?
Yes. And I mean, he's gonna get paid. And whether it's the total dollars or it's the number of years. And if you don't want to pay for those years at the end, then take the same amount of money, squish it into 5 years, and you know, you can move on after that 5 years.
Yeah, it appears like he wants $200 million, which would be a 7-year deal because he's about a $30 million give or take. That's the estimate. And it sounds like Houston has been unwilling to go there. Maybe Boston will hold off. But Detroit should be in the mix with all these teams offering market rate. See, that's what I go back to. It's the market rate.
It's the cost of doing business.
This is what it costs to add premium free agent players on your playoff baseball team. And I'll remind them, they were a playoff team a year ago.
Yeah.
Act like it. Oh, it's too pricey. That's from John Heyman. That's a respected reporter in the game saying the Tigers are in, but he might be too pricey.
And there's a lot of different ways that you can, you know, get to the ultimate goal in the end game of being a team that in a franchise that competes for World Series. And okay, it's not Scott Harris's fault that we are a fan base that has struggled for a decade. He's only been here, 2 years?
Yeah, that's not his fault.
All right. But I think you do have to take into account how long the fans have been at this. Now, it's not, if you're trying to build a winner for the long term, year in, year out, competitive team, there is something to be said for developing your young guys and then next year. Because he said, I like the talent level that we have at all levels of the organization. That's great. It doesn't mean that you have to wait to win. You can sign some guys now, and it's not a 37-year-old for a year or a 35-year-old for a 2-year deal. You can sign some guys that are going to be here when all the young reinforcements also get here.
Here's the Scott Harris quote that I was referencing. I want to get it right. Quote, free agent prices continue to rise at pretty staggering rates. We're always engaged with every agent, and we're engaged with all the teams on different trades. When we find something we actually like, we'll jump on it. Jeff Greenberg, the team's general manager, confirmed yesterday that they're basically done with the starting pitchers. Alex Cobb was the move they're going to make. If they can get Sasaki from Japan, great, but they are not looking to add any other starting pitching. So they added a 1-year starter and are not, Sasaki would not be an expensive deal. It has to be a minor league deal. They are not going to invest significantly in the starting pitching, and I don't know that they're going to invest significantly in the hitting. So where are they going to invest?
So let me ask you this. And I don't know if Job is going to be there at the beginning of the season or not. And he'll certainly be one of those guys that's got a clock. And it's going to be a lot shorter than everybody else's. But Skubal, Olsen, Cobb, Job at some point. And maybe it's early June when that happens. That's not a bad rotation.
No, a couple notes, though. Job will probably have some kind of innings limit in his first big league season, and Cobb is 37 and has had injury issues. I think they can get the most out of him, but I don't know if he's logging major innings. They may be, again, doing what they did last year, which is just finding a way to get as many innings out of the staff as they can, which is okay, but they needed to hit more. Like, that's what held them back last year. Right. I don't doubt that Feder and Hinch can play matchups and bullpen and find arms and develop arms and get the most out of the pitching staff. No one has disputed that. It's, hey, Game 4, Game 5 playoff series, can you knock guys in? Do you have any bats that can get a big knock against a good pitcher? And this team doesn't have them. Just for context on Bregman, okay, because he's the guy I've really started to fixate on here. Bregman had a 4 WAR last year. Only 2 Tigers had a higher WAR than him. Tarek Skubal and Riley Green. If you can add a player who'd be the 3rd best guy on this team at a position of need for the foreseeable future, I don't know why price is really coming into question here. Your owner's rich. Your team doesn't have a high payroll where you're worried about luxury tax. This is a pretty obvious, just pay the freight, pay the market rate. I get right now playing the game. You don't want to jump out and overpay immediately. But if you get the asking price, highest and best, every agent puts it in, the Tigers can't fall short because it's too expensive. That's embarrassing.
Well, and I'd like to know what player, does this player even exist that fits the parameters that the Tigers are looking for?
Well, you know who the best player available, he's too expensive, was Juan Soto.
Right, but I mean,
my point is, there's no warts in Juan Soto's game.
Right,
but the price is higher.
But the parameters, 15 years, and okay,
the answer is no one's going to be. You know what they want? They want a 5-tool player who doesn't want to make a lot of money. That's the perfect player for them.
Right.
That just maybe grew up a Tigers fan and will take a severe hometown discount. He's a 5-tool center field superstar or catcher or shortstop. You can play all the positions, and he's young, and he'll sign a short-term deal for no money. That's who they're looking for. That guy doesn't exist.
I truly question whether they have a problem, and Chris Ilitch has been burned by it, actually, paying the bad years. And it's part of doing business now.
Boo-hoo.
So that's Bregman, for example.
Boo-hoo. You may have to suffer a couple years on the back end. Boo-hoo.
That I honestly, truly wonder if that's. You'll never get the right answer on that.
Right.
You'll never get the truth, but the evidence is there with Miggy and now Javi.
Right. But Javi, that deal is completely different because that was bad from the beginning. Like every single year has been bad.
But there's still, the bottom line is Chris Ilitch owes Javier Baez $64 million still. Right?
Yeah.
Am I supposed to feel bad?
No, you're not.
Okay.
What I'm saying is they are behaving like a team that doesn't want to pay the bad end. That's why they have the back end of a contract to a guy. You're paying them, they're not performing to what they used to, but you still got 2 years left on a deal. That's why they're not doing anything long term. I truly believe that.
But so again, the player that they can sign doesn't exist because all of these guys that are signing right now and for the term that they're signing for, even Soto, 15 years. Like, what is he going to be in year 13, 14, 15 of that deal? Like, the Mets don't care.
Right.
And I understand that they're in a different stratosphere, but whether it's Houston making that decision or if it was St. Louis or if it was any other team that ends up signing these players, they're willing to deal with years 6 and 7 of that Bregman deal.
I want to be clear, too. I'm not defending what they're doing.
I know.
I'm saying what I think they're doing because it doesn't make any sense that – here's where it makes no sense for me right now is if you don't address the infield in some capacity in free agency with a pretty big name. That's why when, Jake Berger got traded last night to the Rangers, that's the guy that I thought they were going after because he provided on a cheaper level what you can analytically do compared to other players in this game. That's the players I think they're after. But if they don't get anybody in the infield, if the infield is this next year, it's the same as last year.
Yeah.
That's criminal.
Right? What do you mean? They were all going to turn into all-stars. That's how they're acting, that they're all going to turn into all-stars.
We can't block them. You got to let them grow.
It's
He's getting mad.
It's 97-1.